Before I introduce you to my next guest today, I want to make sure that you're aware of two new resources to help you to increase your productivity, clarify your purpose, and improve your communication skills. The first one is our Facebook community called Leadership with Purpose. So it's a private community. So go to Facebook groups, search for Leadership with Purpose, and send a request to be invited into the group. There's a few questions for you to answer, and then live to have you a part of that community of other like-minded leaders. Our team is really excited about launching the Next Level Coaching Roadmap. It's a group coaching format, so highly recommend that you check that out and to get your questions answered. If you're a leader that's experiencing any of the following, this is definitely a group format that's going to help you break through to your next level within leadership and your career. So if you have any fear about moving to the next level in your leadership career, this is a group that you'll want to connect with. If you have loss of confidence, if you're kind of confused, like not knowing really how to tap into the hidden job market, if you have a desire to really to grow to the next level, this is definitely a group that you'll want to be able to connect with. If you want to know how to stay calm in a high stress environment, there's going to be strategies, tips, and resources, conversations all around how to develop skills to do just that. So if you want more information, head over to warrenwandling.com/the next level coaching. And in there on that page, you'll notice more information about the coaching roadmap, but also there's a link for you to schedule a phone call with me so we can help really figure out if this is the right fit to helping you take your career to the next level. Okay, again, that's warrenwandling.com/the next level coaching. Well, welcome back to another episode of How to Become an Obstacle Buster. I'm your host, Warren Wandling, the show that's dedicated helping leaders and entrepreneurs to overcome their obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success. And I have someone really special to help us do just that today, Sean Doyle. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Whoop, whoop, I'm excited. Let's go, Warren. Let's help some folks
I'm
today.
really excited for our conversation. And let's start like within your background, because as the principal of Fitzmartin, a leading consultancy focused on optimizing sales and marketing investments of emerging mid-market and B2B businesses, share with our listeners something about your business and how you got started.
I'm only going to share one thing. I'll tell them about the business at the end, but man, the thing is this. I'm not another marketing schmuck with another idea filled with hope, hubris, and hyperbole. I've got some science to bring you today that is fabulous. And let's say it this way. If you had a proven playbook that could predict your buyers' behaviors, that could allow you to proactively prepare for what your buyers' needs were during their sales journey, you'd be interested, right?
That
If you're
would be
interested in
yes.
that, let's talk. Well, let's talk today.
Yeah, that's very intriguing. So before we go actually dive into that statement, how about what do you see as the greatest obstacle that your clients encounter?
Oh, Obstacle Buster. That would be a great name for a podcast.
That could be. It might work.
Let's think about it. I'm in marketing, Warren, if you need help. I think the thing is when it comes to sales, most executives get it because most executives have sold something, whether it's an idea to investors, coming on board to a new prospect or a client rather, or actually going out and closing deals, right? People get sales. Marketing. Oh, the misunderstanding of marketing is just replete. It's everywhere. And it's an incredible business tool if you understand how to use it and what the framework should be. And if you get past the idea of marketing as an add-on or marketing as art or marketing because I need to do branding, whatever that means. So that obstacle has been an incredible part of my ability to help impact our clients. In fact, when our clients get over that obstacle, we see them getting $287 back top line revenue for every dollar they invest in what we do. So that's just evidence, right? That this works once you can get past it. So how do you get through that obstacle? You need a framework, and I'm going to tell you about that later.
So that's interesting in reference to kind of changing the paradigm, because I loved how you use like marketing. It's the art. Um, it's something other than what it sounds like that you've really helped to discover, or an algorithm that helps drive that type of results.
Yeah, and before you throw away your art, I mean, think about it this way. Communications is critical. If you can't communicate about your prospect, or to your prospect, your service, your specialization, your product. If you can't communicate, then it all fails. If you can't communicate with your best friend, you lose your best friend. It's no different. So communications is critical. That's why we often think about marketing as art, where art directors who are excellent at visual communications, writers who are excellent at verbal communication, video that combines that, right? Those craft aspects of marketing are, are absolutely fundamentally have to be there. But what do you communicate? That's the missing gap. So if all you do is create incredible visual, verbal, video, great websites, if you're not sure what that buyer needs along this predictable behavior stack that they're going to have, then it's ineffective communication. And Warren, let me ask you this: at some point, you had a date or went out with somebody that you were interested in, and if you just spent the whole time talking about how amazing Warren is, what would have happened?
Well, I'm sure it wouldn't have gone very well.
Of
I'm just
course not.
guessing.
I'm just guessing. We all know it would have gone terribly. Or we've all been on that date with somebody and went, oh, I'm never doing this again. And we approach marketing like that. And sometimes we approach sales like that too. So if we can understand what the person on the other side of the table needs to understand you, then we would communicate that, right? Because we want to discover if that conversation should lead to a second conversation. And if it's not in the best interest of each person, then let's not continue the conversation. We don't have to go out to dinner again. That's okay. But if we're interested and there's maybe a fit, and you've taken somebody and they're starting to contemplate what this relationship might look like, then let's visit again. But guess what? The second time you sit down across the table, there's different needs. And if you started by reintroducing yourself, what would happen then, Warren? They'd
Yeah,
think you were nuts.
right. So it's
Right?
kind of
They'd be,
interesting that you're saying, like, within the marketing, knowing your avatar, if that's a current term, and being able to speak their language. So when they see your marketing, it resonates with them, and you're starting to build a know, like, and trust through your marketing. Is that what you're
that's part
saying?
of all. Yeah, and that's absolutely a critical part of it. But if I know, like, and trust you, that does not cross the finish line to an exchange relationship. Because before I enter an exchange relationship, and remember, I'm like you, I'm working with the executives of that B2B space, that emerging middle market space, where some of the stuff that used to work, some of the simpler approaches to marketing or sales or even IT or organizational design, all the different things you did as a smaller business, they're just not working as well anymore. Marketing is going to go through that same journey. So if you got people to know, like, and trust you in the beginning of your business journey, it was effective because then sales could carry the water the rest of the way. As you need to scale, sales can't scale that well, right? One salesperson might be able to manage 600 names in a database if you're doing a good job. So at some point, you just hit your limit. But marketing can expand that, focus sales effort on later stage deals, and marketing can carry that water a little bit farther. But none of that works if you don't have a framework to understand that predictable buyer's behavior. And it is predictable, right? Just like I'm saying that know, like, trust, as you said, that's where you've got to be in the beginning. But at the end, at the closing table, if you're still saying, "Hey, do you still know me? Do you like me? Do you still trust me?" Really, you've got to be giving, "Hey, here's helping relationships that allow me to know that's predictable if you buy our product or service." Or here's let's go through a journey of private commitment and then public commitment, and that is going to reveal then encouragement. But I can't I'm going to stick with the dating analogy since I started there. However unfortunate that might be, you would never go out with somebody for the first time at your family's Thanksgiving dinner, right? That's a public commitment. You're going to have some private commitments first. You're going to go out one-to-one and maybe even go out in a small restaurant where your friends won't drop in because you just don't want to deal with that. And if I never want to see the other person again, or you're afraid they're going to, really reveal who you are, you just wouldn't do that. So you've got to have this. But these are really important things to understand in business, because I realize I'm talking to executives who are running serious businesses, and that's why the dating analogy is probably not perfect. But if your sales team and marketing team aren't equipped to give people a way to experience your business with a private commitment before they go to the executive team, then they're never going to make that switch over to the public commitment. Now, these are things salespeople do intuitively, but guess what? It's a predictable buyer behavior that marketing, if they're intelligent and thoughtful and have a focus of being sales first, then they can lean in and say, let me support this private commitment step. Let me support the public commitment step. Here's a great one. One of my favorite questions to answer whether your current marketing or current agency is a barrier, is an obstacle to your success as you scale. And it's this simple thing. Ask them, what does marketing do at the closing table to help a buyer buy? Now, notice I didn't say help sales sell. I said, what does marketing do to help a buyer buy? The science that we base centricity, that's what we call the model, the framework, it reveals that there's 6 specific things that happen at the closing table, that in this predictable buyer's journey, that you can support that buying decision if you provide the information around the 6 specific things. And those 6 things have nothing, maybe very little, to do with what your needs are at the beginning of the buyer's journey. So if your agency, if your marketing team, if your CMO can't answer, what should we be doing at the closing table? And here's how we're going to support sales, then you've got the wrong group. You've got to have somebody who has a framework, who can understand full cycle. Let's put it in another scenario, Warren. Would you hire somebody to run your manufacturing plant that could get this thing you're building halfway built? No, you would
Yeah.
insist that the guy running your plant can build things to completion. But we constantly hire marketing and sales who are great at getting the thing started. In this case, maybe it's some really simplistic approach, but maybe it's some ads, maybe it's a website, maybe it's even a marketing automation system. Yeah, that's great. But you're about halfway built based on what a buyer needs to go through the complete journey. So just ask that question, and that might be the greatest obstacle that you're facing, and why marketing is not clearly contributing to your operations revenue.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm curious, what are some key strategies that contributed to your success building your firm?
Oh, total failure? Is that a cliche?
Oh, wow. Okay.
In my case, it was even a physical failure. In 2002, I was diagnosed with a chronic illness. I went from running marathons to couldn't walk the steps to my house.
Oh, goodness.
And it was pretty excruciating journey. But when you go through those moments, you really decide to discover what's critical, what's important. And for me, my faith grew, my relationship with God grew, and that was the foundation. And at the same time, I was given this book. It was all about behavioral science. Well, who in the world would give a guy that's sick a behavioral science book? Well, I'm a nerd and I kind of like that stuff. But so I read this book about the science. I was like, oh my gosh, the science of behavioral change, that's marketing. And so why is that important? Well, it's important because for the 15 years prior to that, I'd had a successful marketing firm. And sometimes the stuff we did worked and sometimes it didn't. And occasionally a CEO would say, hey, that was great. You should have charged me more. And more often, the business would move on. My business would move on to some other space, and I didn't have a pattern. I didn't have a framework. And once I saw that this behavioral science provided two things, centricity provides a way to look at the buyer's journey, which isn't all that seminal, right? McKinsey wrote the behavioral science, the buyer's journey, and so go to McKinsey; they're expert at that. Incredible. That's not a huge aha, but the aha was this stuff like the advertising, the awareness, the consciousness raising is the behavioral science term. That stuff was great, but it didn't get people across the finish line. And guess what? My clients wanted revenue. They weren't buying marketing. I love to say nobody buys what I sell. I sell marketing. Nobody wants marketing. People want revenue. So the idea that I could go to my team and say, hey, we need this consciousness raising stuff, this advertising, but we also need to lean into tools of environmental control, which are powerful at closing the table, or helping relationships, which are really empowering to a buyer in the middle of the journey to the end of the journey. And we need to understand how rational and emotional arousal actually are more effective mid-funnel than they are early stage. And those are kind of things that we've all heard, marketing little clips and terms, but I didn't know the pattern and when to use them and where. So being able to have the aha moment of there's a framework, and if we'll use it, we'll have repeatable success. And is it perfect? Well, I wish humans were perfectly consistent. My experience is that they haven't been so far, but pretty consistent in the way we need it. So it just really increases the odds of those investments. So that was the aha moment. That was the thing that happened that really allowed our business to grow because we actually use it too. It's also really cool. Everybody's got a framework. Every agency, every executive listening is going, yeah. My agency's got a framework. I don't remember the name. They told me about it. When we onboarded, I think we did something, groundwork or something. That's actually what we do when you onboard at our shop. But that's not the framework I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that informs all the work you do. Because you want your marketing to have reasons behind it looks good or I think it's going to work. Would you want me to say, Warren, here's a set of tools that your sales team needs because we audited all your marketing and sales tools and there's a big gap. And there's a proven playbook that predicts buyers' behaviors and needs. And at the end of the buying cycle, there's these needs. Here's 3 tools that your sales team is missing. And if they will use these, you're going to increase, maybe double your close rate. Would that be important to you? That's what these recommendations are based on. Well, if you want to know the science, we'll get through the science with you. Or if you just want to trust the framework, then great, let's do it. Let's move. And then I notice I didn't say anything about the color, the size, the shape. I didn't even mention the tool. Because centricity should inform everything sales does, all their tools, marketing. It should inform your technology and it should inform your customer service. It should inform everything because it's the needs of the person. So quit buying marketing and start buying what the buyer needs. That's a very different way to think about this.
Well, that's interesting. So it sounds like it has to do something around the pain mapping model. So what's the best path of solving a buyer's pain with that model, with the pain mapping model?
Yeah, so further wonky science. UCal Berkeley did some studies about 2 decades ago, and just in their work, uncovered that the highest motivator. Well, let me ask you, what do you think, Warren? You know the answer. It's pain. The highest motivator in anyone's life is pain avoidance. Like we'll do anything to avoid pain. Like, Warren, why have you not fired that person that you've been complaining about for the last 2 years? Well,
Typically, it's pain of the
pain.
assumption or the limiting belief of the response.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to go through the pain of firing them. I like them. They're a good friend. We've worked together for a long time. Da, 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 da. Right? It's your pain avoidance. And when the pain of that problem becomes higher than the pain of eliminating that problem, then you deal with it. Well, guess what? Every product and service sold has pains. And the UCal Berkeley science broke it down into there's personal pains. Like I personally, I don't like this situation. I'm uncomfortable in it, whatever. There's strategic pains. I want to achieve XYZ result. And then there's financial pains because of this being not done right. I'm losing $2 million in net income a year. Well, those are pains. Those are examples. So strategic, personal, and financial. If your sales and marketing team can look at you use the word avatar. I've heard persona. There's a million different ways to say it. So Warren, I don't even know today's term. It'll be good. It'll be good till tomorrow. So
Exactly right.
just you get the buyer types, right? So if I'm selling to a CEO, a CFO, and a plant manager who's building something, well, whatever we want to call them, they have by nature they have different personalities, and by nature they have different. They're by obligation they have different jobs, right? So the CEO is going to tend to have a strategic obligation. The plant manager might have a personal obligation, and I can't remember the other buyer, but it's a financial obligation. So you just look at your buyers. What are your buyers' needs, and let's make sure we speak to them. And here's the danger of not having a map. And you can actually your listeners can come to my website. It's Fitzmartin, FITZMARTIN.com/free help. And there's a pain map there. Download it, use it, try it. It's an incredible process, an incredible tool. Don't have just your salespeople do it. But everybody has a bias, right? So if the salesperson is talking to the CFO, I might understand the problem that we're trying to solve as a financial one. And then in the leadership team, when that public commitment happens, the CEO goes, well, I don't understand how this strategically helps us achieve our goal. Oh, well, shoot. Because we only saw it through the lens of the person that we were selling to, or the lead, the advocate. So we've got to understand there's almost always three different points of view. So the next logical question is, well, yeah, but so what? Personal. You said personal pain, Sean. We're selling highly complex enterprise deals to large systems and big companies. There's no personal pain there. Procurement's even involved. We're stripping out all personal pain. Wrong, right? Because everybody wants to get a promotion, another raise, make a good decision, look good to their boss. I don't even know your deal that you're talking about, and I just named 5 or 6 personal pains that definitely exist. I mean, I don't know about you, Warren, but I don't want to look dumb to my boss or my peers.
Right, exactly. That could be a pain right there, right?
That's a pain. So yeah, pain mapping is an incredible part of that. How does that impact centricity? In other words, how does it impact pain mapping through the entire buyer's journey? Well, you might lead with all 3 different types of pain, so that the bias of a buyer, if my bias is personal advancement, or my bias is financial, or my bias is strategic, you might look at your marketing and audit and map. Do you have, I'll be super simplistic. Do you have advertising that speaks to all 3? Now, what I mean is not one ad that speaks to all 3, but one ad that speaks to each. If you don't, then you're missing the opportunity to lean into the buyer's bias. The second question then is, at the end of the cycle, at the deal, remember in these B2B decisions, there's at least influencers, if not just your buyer. And you're going to need to make sure all 3 are addressed, regardless of the bias of the person who brought you to the deal. And your tendency is going to be to lean in and please that bias. I mean, you might have to say, Warren, I know you're looking at this as a CFO and a financial advisor. It's been our experience that the CEO is probably going to want to know how this helps strategically. What if, when we go to the executive team with this deck or whatever, what if we have a strategic section? Would that make sense to you, Warren?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense in reference to the framework that you're describing.
Right. So the 2 things are the pain mapping and centricity, the framework are integrated, but you can use them independent. Go to the website. The framework is there too, if you want to look at that. It's hard to visualize these things. But the pain map, if you want just a really simple way to test whether this science, this application of science works, then go there and download the pain map and just test your outbound marketing. Everybody's got something. Another test you could have would be take that same pain map, personal, strategic, and financial, or just visualize it right now if you're driving or thinking, or pull up your website. Don't pull up your website if you're driving. Let's be clear.
Yeah, right.
Warren's not pro driving and texting. But think about your website. Does your website's homepage address those three pains? If your homepage of your website cannot offer a path with clarity to those three types of buyers, those three types of pain, then you're missing a percentage. So let's just say it's evenly weighted. Hey, you're missing a third of your opportunities if you're missing one. Or if your own bias said, hey, when I approved the website, I see the world as a CFO. So I made sure there's all kinds of financial pain addressed there, because that's how I think people buy our product. And this is a common failure of executives, especially as they grow, that they're leaning on the old behaviors, and they're saying, my bias worked, it got us this far. And yeah, it did. Is it going to keep getting you there? Is it going to continue to grow? Can you scale? And are you willing to say UCal Berkeley's wrong? My practical experience is wrong. But even if it's a financial buyer, they still have the other aspects of their point of view. And influencers will definitively have different points of view. So make sure there's personal aspects to the website and how this decision could help them personally. And make sure there's strategic aspects. Just two really easy tests.
Yeah,
And
that's really
easy
interesting.
improvements. Call your agency, tell them to fix it.
So I'm curious then, is that how you can ensure clients to generate quality leads?
You nailed it. And that is an incredible, that's one way. That is a way that lead quality is a constant issue. Everybody bought into this idea of, hey, let's get marketing automation technology and we're going to get all these leads and lead gen, and isn't that cool? And then the very next conversation is, these leads are terrible.
Right?
So it's
Yes.
like, okay. Or there's just not enough. But usually it's lead quality is the next problem. And yeah, the website is most commonly it's an incredibly interesting funnel point, because it's a where we go. We've got anonymity, or a certain amount of anonymity on a website. I can explore things safely. I don't have to talk to your salespeople for information. It's a really interesting time. Centricity says that that's the time that you want to inspire somebody, right? So in the beginning, you're enlightening them to maybe there's a better solution to this problem I've got. Oh, wow, I'm enlightened. Let's go learn more. Now you've got to inspire them. And if the science points to, behavioral science points to, our buyers are looking backward at their old behavior and looking forward at your suggested behavior at the same time. I almost would guarantee, I'm gonna hedge my bet a little bit. 99% of the listeners have websites that only allow your visitor to look forward to a future path. They don't say, you could keep, let's pick on supply chain right now, because that's an easy, common subject. If I'm selling something that solves a supply chain problem, my website probably says, here's how we solve the problem. Here's how we solve the problem. Look at all the great ways we solve the problem. Here's testimonials about how we solve the problem. Aren't we great? We probably don't say, gosh, look at all the pain you're living in. Here's all the problems. Here's the money you're losing by the supply chain problem. Here's the customer value you're losing with this problem. We don't talk about the problems as much. We don't force that buyer to look back. And it's an incredibly simplistic way to illustrate, but it's an effective way, Warren. So I'm going to use it. Do you remember those ads? We're going to date ourselves, but it was like an old red car. They were on TV. They pulled it out of the junkyard and they put a piece of tape down the hood and they used some miracle wax thing
Oh
on the
my
right
goodness.
side. You remember that?
Yeah, and then it became just like this gorgeous car, like it was well done.
Yeah, like showroom ready.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. That's why that advertisement worked. You took people and you inspired them at that time when they were contemplating making a change. Maybe I don't want to drive the car that looks like a junker. Maybe I want to look at the showroom ready car. And I could do that for $20. I'm inspired. But the way they did that was they did the look forward and compared it and contrasted to give us a basis for our decision by showing the look backward. So now we're running down the path. Your question was lead quality. If lead quality can come from in people who are inspired correctly and honestly and have integrity, the most interesting thing I think today, current day in America at least, and I say America because the EU has such different rules around privacy, but in America at least right now, you can get incredibly effective work done to identify a target account list that is just laser sharp. You don't have to do the old broadcast method anymore. Now, remember, I don't live in consumer, I live in B2B. There's just, I met with a group the other day that has, and they're looking to sell into banks from 1 billion to 10 billion in gross assets. They sell a service in the financial technology space. We know there's 809 prospects. Now, within each one of those, there's maybe one buyer and two or three influencers. But we know there's 809 prospects. Why in the world would we spend money doing big broadcast kind of ideas, whether it's Google search ads or not? Well, let's communicate to these people specifically with their needs. So I think that the target, the lead gen quality, one of the most courageous decisions I've seen one of my team make was we had a client that had website traffic of 40,000 visitors a month, unique visitors a month. And she came in and said, "This is terrible." And I'm looking at it going, "What? This is great." And no, so we should have 8,000 visitors a month probably. So they started carving out and redirecting and getting rid of people and improve lead quality. Well, let's take that to the next level with account-based marketing and 100 other tools and ways you can buy data. Like you can literally market one-to-one using today's marketing technology. And that is much more interesting to me than trying to get top of the funnel leads and then parse off some, and then you end up with a good target list. Let's just go after the target. Let's only spend money on that. I think it's an incredible day that we can do that.
Wow, that's interesting. So I understand that you like the teaching the art of fly fishing.
Yeah, I do. It's okay. River runs through it. If you haven't
Oh my
watched it,
goodness! No, you're reaching. Yes, that's a great movie.
it's your assignment. It speaks to you too, Warren.
Yes.
Uh, what part? What part about it really reaches out to you?
Well, for me personally, it was the rhythm of the fly fishing and the process that they
Yeah.
integrated within the movie, and the storyline was around that
Mm.
creating the rhythm in life.
I just learned the most fascinating thing. I'm helping a organization that uses fly fishing to help children who have been orphaned, abandoned, and abused kind of come back into their own and discover they have value. And the leader of that organization was talking to a, a physician who said, "Do you know why fly fishing is effective at that, at helping restore people and find themselves?" And the head of this ministry, who was an abandoned or not abandoned, but an abused child, and who found himself on the river, waving a stick. He said, "No, I don't know." And this trauma physician said, "It's rhythm. There's something about rhythm that soothes our soul, that calms us, that centers us, if you want to use that term." And you can even go into, if you're a reader of the ancient scriptures, you can read about David, um, who played music for Saul, who was crazy, right? And like, why did that work? Well, it was rhythm. There's a rhythm to it, and so I think fly fishing is incredible. There's definitely process. There's beauty, um, but the main reason I like it, it's probably one of the few places I can uh, focus and just kind of just be absolutely present. I love how it allows that. And if I can take somebody else who's never done this before and help them go through the journey of discovering that, well, one, it's just fun to see somebody catch their first fish. But if I can introduce somebody to a place where they can be present, oh, incredible opportunity. But yeah, isn't it interesting though that there's rhythm and frameworks are just everywhere.
That's interesting. So that really is, I think, that secret maybe from fly fishing is being present and creating a rhythm would help a leader that's on our um, listenership that's
Mm.
tuned into the show that helps them to break through obstacles is to use that process of rhythm and being present.
Yeah, and get over. I'm gonna take the negative one. Get over the idea that marketing should be outside of that. Marketing should not be this. Bring in the most creative people with the most earrings and the craziest haircuts, and get them to be creative. Creativity requires boundaries to be effective, to be good. There's no solid creative that resists boundaries. Bad creatives hate boundaries. Within a framework, within structures, that's when creativity happens. It's not when you have blue sky. If you tell me blue sky, Warren, if you hire me tomorrow and tell me, all right, we need blue sky thinking, I'm going to fire you on the spot. Just not doing it. We just have bought into this idea that the blue sky is what's going on. It's not.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I know our listeners would love to be able to connect with you. What is the best way for them to be able to reach out and connect?
Well, I mean, come to the site, LinkedIn, all that stuff. The website, Fitzmartin, FITZMARTIN.com. And my name's Sean, SEAN. Just email me. No big deal. Uh, I promise not to sell you anything, but I will also promise to help you discover something new that'll be helpful. And would love to do that. Um, and LinkedIn's an easy one. There's a website also. It's Sean M. Doyle that .com. That is a website that has videos that teach some of the basics of centricity. Now, to tell you the secret, it probably still says cognitive marketing because we took a really boring name, cognitive marketing, and turned it into centricity. Isn't that was a good decision, wasn't it, Warren?
I think that's probably good. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so when you hear cognitive marketing, just don't yawn and listen to those videos. That's what we're talking about today, centricity.
Well,
So yeah,
excellent. I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes.
thank you. You're so kind. Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. I hope this helps your listeners, and at least somebody got one good idea.
I'm sure definitely. There's a lot of great value and kind of a different perspective in helping our listeners to rethink their marketing and to re-examine that. So thank you for being on the show today.
Well, you're welcome. And I realizing like your expertise in training and coaching and curriculum, I need to talk to you because this should become a curriculum, shouldn't it?
It could be. It sounds like there's definitely potential right around a curriculum product.
Curriculums need frameworks. Let's talk.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you again for sharing your
You're
strategies,
welcome.
tips, and resources helping our leaders to break through the obstacles to achieve success.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you, Born.
Yep. Thank you. Well, until next time, this is your host, Warren Wandling, saying, be an obstacle buster.